Hello everyone. The more astute of you may have realised that I haven't posted any videos this week. I thought it would just be a good idea, after posting every weekday for 3 weeks, to take a week out to give myself and the people watching a little break. Um, and I'll probably continue to do this every 3 weeks. I'll take a week out to posting no videos and then go back to 3 weeks every weekday, if I can continue to keep that up. Um, But in this week, I thought it'd be a good idea to post a little summary video, a little edited video. I managed to edit 3.5 hours worth down to 30 minutes. I did the best I could, trying to make it as short as possible. But this is just an edited version of the 12 parts that I've posted so far on this Chrono Trigger Crimson Echoes LP. I'll probably continue to do this since it's quite a long LP. It'll be useful for both new viewers who want to, get straight into the LP and watch it from the newest videos, and probably it'd be good for existing viewers too. So, yeah, I think this is a good idea. Be sure to leave a comment if you think it's a good idea, or if you think maybe it's not really worth it at all. Let's get down to this then. So the game begins with Chrono and Mal in Guardia Square talking about some meeting they have tomorrow with poor agents. Next day, though, before we go to the meeting, we do collect a cake and a postcard that our in-game mother asked us to deliver. I thought I'd leave this in case it was relevant. It may be, it may not be. It hasn't become obvious yet. But we do end up at the meeting. The poor agents make some unreasonable demands that King Guardia obviously has some problems with. We can see that there from his little hop back and step forward and saying, "You can't be serious." But he does also say that he will put their demands under review and give them some consideration. The poor agents don't seem to expect this. They ask to be excused, which is permitted. But when they do go outside, our main characters decide to spy on them, and we overhear them talking about killing the negotiator if two of their three demands were not met. This negotiator was meant to be the Chancellor, but he was not present. So Chrono kills a guy like he does, and the other agent manages to escape by going downstairs. Somehow that makes sense. We chase him over a bridge, and we stop for a second because he's way too fast and our heroes are very out of shape, having not fought anyone for 5 whole years. Luca takes the device out of her pocket and says it's very fragile, it may be malfunctioning, and then the agent steals it. So we give chase, he reaches a dead end. Luca shoots him in the head because that's the way to solve all your problems, boys and girls. And Luca mentions that her device is actually a time egg, the same device that they used to save Chrono in the original game. Fortunately, though, her version of the time egg is very fragile, like was already said, and it goes off at the worst time possible and sends them through time. While we are travelling through time, we see a little montage of, well, not a montage, but whatever. We see a little scene with Isla, and we learn that she's weak and sick for whatever reason. We also meet up with Frog, who is retrieving the Masamune from its resting place well, he just says he wants it. And then we end up in the future with our three party members. Robo is very surprised, and Melchior, who this is, no, it's not Melchior, it's Balthazar, is very amused. Very amused. This first part ends up with Magus in 12,000 BC. He is kind of sick or something, I don't know, but for whatever reason he faints in the snow, and that's the end of part 1. He is saved by some guy though, thankfully. Part 2 begins with Janus recovering in this hut in 12,000 BC. He goes to the main square of 12,000 BC where all the people meet. I suppose you could call it the village square. Speaks with the elder who asks Janus to aquesta Sargon's healing square because they do have some sick villagers, some of them who are elder, who could make use of it. So Janus goes to Sargon's house, but Sargon doesn't seem to be very willing to let anyone use his healing square. So Janus decides he'll go there and flex his muscles a bit and say boo to him, and Sargon gives in and lets everyone use his healing square. We see when we talk to him one more time that he is willing to let everyone use his healing square by now. The elder is very happy with that. But then Dalton comes in, Dalton from the original games, throws some fireballs about at the elder, and he wants to know where Sargon is. Janus decides to fight him, but this selfish bitch decides, no, I don't want to get hurt, I'll tell you where Sargon's thing is so you can take over the world. Dalton floats off. Janus chases him. We go back to Sargon's house. We ask him, has Dalton been here? And he says yes. He told him where his artifacts were, which was a bad idea, Sargon. But I suppose, to be fair to Sargon, Dalton is pretty strong. So we go to the forest over here, fight some monsters, meet up with Dalton, who has retrieved the artifact that he was looking for, the artifact that will apparently offer him immortality. But he decides he doesn't feel like fighting us. He wants to just get out of here. He'll leave us to deal with one of his minions or cronies or lackeys, I suppose you could call him. So we do fight this golem boss now. After dying to it twice, we do manage to successfully take it out. You see, it does have this this desperation attack that it uses as it dies to take you out with it, like an explosion or a self-destruct. But we did have enough HP that time to take it out. Part 3 begins now with Janus picking up a silver stud, a very useful item that I thought I'd leave in. We speak to this person who tells us that Dalton has gone to his hideout in the north, which we do visit now. We fight some of his lackeys again. We go through some puzzles, like this one here. The answer is left knife. And then we meet up with Dalton. He detects magic, he realizes who we are, he realizes we are Janus. He doesn't really care though because we are weak. Now Aura has apparently fallen since 5 years ago. We decide to fight him, but poor Janus gets brutalized in one hit by Dalton's little slash attack. Poor Janus, you got brutalized quite badly there. Janus gets up. Dalton decides he still has uses for us though. He will keep us in a status tube. He could find some use to us. He could use his energy to complete his device even though we are weak. He will put us in a status tube, which is just what he does. We can see here, poor old Janus floating in a status tube. Part 3 ends with the adventurers in the future again. Part 4 begins with the 3 main party members we started off with back in the future again. We do meet up with them again. Balthazar's very amused by this for some reason. He explains that he is not the same Balthazar that we would have known before. He also explains that this is Chronopolis, an institute that he made in the future. He also explains he is making a new version of the Epoch, the time machine, spaceship, flying machine, or whatever you want to call it from the original. And he does have this temporal time machine that they can use to send us to any time in the past. We get some backstory here. And we also meet up with the Mother Brain from the original game, who is under control this time. She's not a bad guy no more. We also meet up with Melchior, and on our way back upstairs we see the poor agent has followed us to the future somehow. So we chase him upstairs. We see him up here again, flying around, jumping around the place like he does. He's about to use the dispatch chamber, but we decide to stop him, but he's too strong and he manages to drag us all in. All 3 of us somehow. He's not to be underestimated. Balthazar tells us we are travelling to 1005 AD, which is alright for us because it's our present, it's where we live. So it's not too worrying really. So we do get sent to the present again. The poor agent, we're about to beat him up, kill him apparently. He decides to return to base, and we decide we will follow him. That's the end of part 4. So part 5 begins with us storming the poorer camp. We see this little tank here that doesn't seem to be working too well. Because it's not functional at all. We speak with the engineer here, who also says that it is quite fearsome, but unfortunately it's not really working at the moment. We speak with Moncrief, the leader of Poor, We ask him some questions. He seems to deny all accusations and claim that he doesn't really know what we're talking about. He doesn't know about the spy. He doesn't. He claims the tank is just it's just an automobile. It's not. It's not a weapon. And then he sends us away. We don't really believe what he's saying, but as we leave, we see that the poor agent was standing on the roof the whole time. Our beloved poor agent who likes to jump off things and into other things. On our way back, we decide it's a good idea to sleep in the chapel, which we do. But overnight, we see that the engineer has managed to complete the tank somehow. The tank that was only just the day before non-functional is now working. We do fight this tank. We manage to take it out after a lengthy battle that I have cropped. And after that, we meet with the agent and the Moncrief, and we see that they had the gate key. That's how they managed to travel through time. They had Luca's gate key that they stole from her house, apparently. We decide we can use the time key to do the same, and that ends part 5. In part 6 we see that this gate has been reactivated in Guardia Square. We use it to travel back to 2300 AD. In 2300 AD we speak to Balthazar, who confirms that the agent must have stolen plans from tank plans to complete their flawed tank prototype, as he said. We also hear this mysterious voice who says he's out for blood. We notice that there's someone attacking the system, so we go downstairs to fight them. We fight some monsters, and then we fight some more monsters, and that seems to be the threat taken care of. We go back upstairs. We speak to Balthazar, who mentions that the monsters look more like the ones from the Ocean Palace in 12,000 BC, so we should travel there to investigate. He also gives us an explanation as to why, although they can send us to any time, we can't reliably return from any time, as he explains here. I'll let him do the explanation for me. So, after that explanation, we do decide we'll go back to 12,000 BC or whatever alternative which begins part 7. We go around, fight some monsters with Robo's new skill we see here, Dark Void I think it's called. We also collect some items, some weapons, some armor and some helmets, 2 of those. And that ends part 7, it's a very short part. Part 8, we get a speed belt, and we find Sharla from the original game, who was meant to be dead. Somehow she's alive again. We see Janus here, who has felt a disturbance in the Force, or something, whatever equivalent exists in this magic Chrono Trigger world. So he manages to break free from his whatever that thing was called, status tube, and we see a mysterious individual fall from the sky here. Not fall from the sky, since that suggests that he actually since it suggests that it was unwilling, but yeah, he fights us, engages us in combat. But Janus comes and tells us to all get out of here, he'll deal with him. Like so. So we fight him, and Janus seems to be making a habit of this. He gets burglarized in one hit again by a big enemy. Janus, you shouldn't make that into a habit, really. This is very important that he uses the mass immune to attack Janus. He pulls it from its original time zone and takes it away with him to wherever he's going at this point in time. It's a very important point to notice. So we leave 12,000 BC, meet up with Chrono again, and travel through time to go back to 2300 AD. We speak with Janus and Shala. He is our. Who is he? We don't know yet. We'll find out soon though. So we speak with the two sages and Luca, who give us our next mission. Our next mission is to travel to... Well, they speak about something first. I'm getting ahead of myself here. We do talk about how the Masamune was pulled from time. So after that date, the Masamune is absent, as he said. So this will cause big changes to the 600 AD, where Frog exists and uses the Masamune to take out our Janus and end the Mystic War, as we see here. So we are given the mission to go to 600 AD and meet up with Glenn and bring him back with us. And that ends part 8. In part 9, we use the time dispatch chamber to travel to 600 AD or 605 AD, which is our equivalent 5 years later. I keep forgetting that. I'm going to continue to call them by their old versions though. We travel to 600 AD, interrupt the picnic. Chrono thinks it's a good idea to put their mission on hold for a second just to steal these poor people's cake. Chrono, you mischievous little runt. We see that Robo exists twice. We speak to this lady who we swap our mouldy bread, which I forgot to include in this video, for a wooden spoon, which is probably a part of a trading sequence. We meet up with Frog, who fights an enemy, manages to take him out without any interaction from us. He seems to be a lot more fearsome when he's not under our control. But anyway, he fights another enemy, which I left in for some reason. Well, I cut it out though. I cut out the long bits. But he uses he gets us to explain, which is cut out, and we have sound again. You know, it's the time before it didn't have sound because I was using the original videos. We tell him how the time would be different. He says, yes, that is true. In this timeline, Cyrus never existed, and I think he says he died as well, or he was just a normal villager because of it. He decides to take us with him to fight the mystics. In part 10, we travel through this tunnel to reach the Mystic Continent. We meet up with Casimir, the leader of the mystics, who Glenn just told us about a minute earlier. It's good to have sound back. So we fight Casimir. I've cut out the battle. I left only the last part. We managed to take him out. But he decides he'll surprise us by saying, haha, I didn't actually die. And he decides to disappear in a puff of smoke. Glenn explains he was a fake. So, they do travel to the Mystic Continent to fight the Mystics. Part 11 begins with us reaching the Mystic Continent. We go over here into this forest, except I missed the forest somehow, and then go back to it. Immediately we find some soldiers that Chrono and Mal decide to take back to the camp since they are injured, and they leave Glenn on his own. And so he's able to take care of himself. He's been doing it for 5 whole years. So while Glenn is on his own, he has a decision to make: side with Poor, side with the Mystics, or declare neutrality. This first possibility is siding with Poor. We get some unique items for doing that. The second possibility is to side with the Mystics. We also get some unique items for doing that. I decided to show all three possibilities in this video. The third possibility is to declare neutrality, which means everyone dies and we get some unique items for that. This is the path I actually took in the end. This is the path I decided to continue on from. So we meet with Chrono and Mal again, and we decide that there's no point continuing this conflict here. The best thing to do is go back to the future. Balthazar tells us that we need a new source of power for Chronopolis. So we are sent to 12,001 BC. With the time egg we can go there and successfully return. We are sent there to retrieve Balthazar's journals to try and figure out a new source of power for Chronopolis. So in part 12 we travel to 12,001 BC to retrieve those journals. Chrono, Magus and Mal decide to marvel at Zeal for a bit. Before travelling to Qajar and getting some backstory. Silver Rock, which is very important. Some more backstory. More backstory. And more backstory. We speak to this guy and we successfully solve his riddle to get him to tell us where Balthazar's lab is, or the entrance is at least. We go back, we use his clue to get into the lab. We scan his notes using the scanner that we were given. And upon trying to leave, this security creature comes alive. We fight him. We do manage to take him out. We meet up with Dalton again. We elude him for a bit by pretending to be cats and frogs and other creatures. And then finally we use the time egg to travel back to 2300 AD. We speak with Balthazar, we told him we have the notes. We ask him what's going on, decides to give us an explanation which I will leave in the original narration for.
From the onset of Zeal, we always knew from ancient lore that man had been gifted with magic by contacting a magnificent red stone. We assumed this was the Dreamstone, kept it in huge supply. It conducted magic well through certain properties, but is not actually the root of magic. You see, magic is the ability to change the external world by manipulating the fundamental forces of the universe. light, shadow, fire, and water. This ability is biological in nature. That biological ability is evolved, like a genetic trait. Isla and the people of prehistory are pre-magic peoples, and cannot use it. On the other hand, certain people in Zeal have the dominant trait, allowing them to use magic at will. In the middle are people like you. Those with the recessive trait, who can nonetheless use magic if it is unlocked in some fashion. Specchio did this for you on your quest, so stop Lavos. You have the trait.
And Specchio's that guy who I mentioned a while back, who I don't think actually called Specchio. Unless I did, but yeah, his name's Specchio.
But where did the trait come from? When did humans evolve to have it? This happened roughly 3 million years ago, when humans discovered a strange piece of dreamstone. This piece seemed to be alive, to have a mind of its own. This is actually a fragment of Lavos' shell itself. This red rock became known as the Frozen Flame. Lavos contacted humanity through the flame, and gave us the biological ability to use magic. The flame was then lost, and became an item of legend. But with their new power, humanity took civilization farther than it had ever had, and reshaped the world according to their thoughts and desires. It was only a matter of time before we would find the flame once more, and try to gain even more power from it. The second contact occurred one unfortunate day in 12,001 BC. While surveying the ocean floor, we discovered the energy of Lavos. Without warning, something dire happened to our King Zeal touched the frozen flame, and it seemingly vaporized him in an instant. We assumed the king to be dead. We were phased considerably, but as you know, we continued with our project. Queen Zeal ordered the creation of the Ocean Palace. To conduct wild amounts of energy, we placed the flame in the Mammon machine, and as you know, this resulted in the destruction of the kingdom. But, as we have observed, King Zeal did not pass into history as we originally thought. He seems to be alive and well. Perhaps when he contacted the flame in 2001 BC, Lavos judged his magical power and strength and tucked him away for further use. Future use, sorry, I speak aloud. Now that Lavos is seemingly defeated, King Zeal has reappeared. He is a mighty magic warrior, certainly capable of posing a threat to you. And oh, my mobile telephone has made a ringtone there. I must check it soon. It is possible that he is under Lavos' control via the frozen flame, whether knowingly or unknowingly. If this scenario is true, King Zeal may carry Lavos' last will and must be stopped at all costs.
Okay. Can I not press A? Okay, there we are. How should Chrono sound? I've got a voice in my head, it's gonna sound terrible. This is inconceivable! You were saying that King Zeal is an agent of Lavos? That's Americans mispronouncing words. That's my idea of how they talk. And with the frozen flame, he can travel through time at will?
Exactly. Capable of finding any era and wreaking havoc. And his magic power approaches the upper limits of human ability.
How did Janus sound again? How was this allowed to happen? Because he sounds like that.
I guess you could call it another unchecked access of Zeal. I built Chronopolis to guard against things such as these.
Jeez!
In any case, first we need to find a new power source for Chronopolis, or not only will we lose our ability to time travel, we'll also lose our cloaking device, and if the outside government finds us, we're in for some annoying trouble. The notes you retrieved describe some ancient artifacts and legends. One of them might be interesting for us. For now, just have a rest. I should have found something by tomorrow. The Dragon Tooth was an artifact built by Reptite shamans. It was supposedly connected to the Netherworld and was used in rituals. We were never able to locate it in my home time, but knowledge of its existence was passed down through earthbound lore, and Melchior once theorized that we could modify it to extract energy directly from the void. That is, almost infinite amounts of energy. Thus, I'm going to send you to 64,999,995 BC to locate it.
That would be 5 years after 65 million BC, the old prehistoric time. Which makes no sense because humans weren't alive then, but this is Chrono Trigger World and we can do what we want.
The situation's a bit pressing, so I'm going to have to send the whole party. Let me be of service, and I'm sure you guys would love a reunion. But be hasty, the artifact is located in one of these mountains. Let's lock down them and get to the issues at hand. Use the dispatch chamber? Yes!
Okay, that was my edited summary of Chrono Trigger Crimson Echoes, the first 12 videos. Hopefully this is useful. If you watched the whole thing, tell me what you thought of it. Obviously tell me how I can improve it. Having the audio in the first few parts isn't really improvement since, as I have hopefully said in the description, that was something I couldn't really help since I lost the original files. But any other improvements are very welcome. Tell me if you think it's a good idea. Tell me how I can improve it. Tell me if you even think it's a bad idea or I should stop doing it if you don't think there's much point. But yeah, I've already explained the schedule I'm going to keep to now. Not really much else to say. It's a very long video. I'm very curious if anyone actually watched the whole thing. But anyway, that's definitely enough for now. I'll have more parts up next week. See you guys later. Bye.